Welcome to all those that are joining us for the Shir today. Likutei Halachos, Orachaim Chelik Gimel, Hilchos Purim, Halacha Hey, paragraph Tes Vav. Joining together the topic of Purim and chapter 55 in Likutei Moran, Toiv Ayin versus Ra Ayin. When the Jews succeeded in getting all their enemies wiped out and they could have taken all the wealth, it says they didn't extend a hand to touch any of the booty. Listen to the words of Rashi. Shelo yihye lahamelech ayin ra al zeh. So the king Achashverosh shouldn't look with a bad eye at this. The Jews showed at the time shehem achshav bebechinas toiv ayin, that now that Haman Harosha and his children and everybody were eliminated, now we are toiv ayin. We have the good eye. Which means, how do you define toiv ayin? We have no desire at all whatsoever for anybody else's money. I want to be completely happy and satisfied with what I have. Avalheim yotzu mitai vazu. However, once Haman was eliminated, Haman, who is the epitome of Ra ayin, Klal Yisrael came out of that taiva completely. Ve'ein lahem shum ayin ra b'momen klal. And we're not looking at any improper way at money whatsoever. We know that to be religious, to live in this world, you need money. To be religious, you need more money. For tuition, for tefillin, for tzitzis, of course. The reason why I want money is to serve Hashem. If I give tzedakah, I'm not giving my money, I'm giving Hashem's money. I'm a shliach for Hashem. Ve'ein noisnim einehem afilu b'momen shel habiza. And the Yidden, the Jews, didn't even look at all the booty, all of this wealth of Haman and his kids and everybody else that they could easily have taken. Ki zochu al yidei Mordechai lebechinas toiv ayin, because we were zoche through Mordechai HaTzadik to achieve this level of toiv ayin. V'al kein hichniu es hara ayin, and therefore we eliminated the ra ayin ad she'i efshir she'yeh lahamelech ra ayin, to the point where even Achashverosh cannot look at us with any ra'ayin, as Rashi HaKodesh points out. Ki heim hichniu es hara'ayin, because Mordechai and Esther and the Jews at that time eliminated the ra'ayin completely, as we explained in the previous shurim. Paragraph Tezayin, now we take it a step further. V'zeh bechinas mishloyach monois ish l'reyehu umatonos levyonim. Note, Purim is the only holiday of the year where we have this. We're not just giving to the poor, there's matonos levyonim, there's a special official mitzvah tzedakah on Purim, giving gifts to the poor people, but in addition, there's a mitzvah to give gifts to the rich people, to everyone, mishloach monos. Ki onu tzrichen litein tzedakah. Because we, the Jewish people, are required to give tzedakah, charity. Shehu bechinas toiv ayin hu yevoiroch ki Nasan milach moiladal. The pasuk says, a person who has a good eye, he is blessed because he shared his bread with a poor person. V'alkein bepurim kol hapoishet yad litoil noisimloi. We have a halacha that applies only to Purim, no other day in the year. Anyone who puts out his hand, you give them. During the year, there's some discretion to choose carefully who you give, who you don't give. The Shulchan Aruch says there's this exceptional situation. Anyone who puts out his hand, no questions asked, you give. Ki oz ein shum ra ayin klal. Because on Purim, there is no ra ayin whatsoever. Rak toiv ayin. There's only the good eye, which means shenoisnim ba'ayin yofa v'toiva l'chol hapoishet yad litoil. We're giving with a good eye. Interesting, this week's parsha is Parshas Re'eh. And in this week's parsha, it speaks about the mitzvah of tzedakah, that when you're giving to a poor person, be careful that your eye shouldn't look negatively at any way for the fact that you're giving. You should realize what a privilege it is, how lucky I am to be on this side of the fence, that I'm being asked to give, that I'm not one of the people who has to put my hand out. Hanoisein pruta la'oni, mizborech b'sheish brachos. A person who gives a penny to a poor person gets 6 blessings. V'hamafaisoi b'dvarim, mizborech b'achadaseh brachos. And if the person consoles and appeases the poor person with words, he gets 11 brachos. I remember my Rebbe Rav Rosenfeld stressed, if you look throughout Shas, usually, whenever the Gemara speaks about giving charity, it never talks about a pruta. It talks about hanoisein sel al tzedakah. Person gives $1 or a substantial amount. This is one of the very rare cases in the Gemara where the Gemara says a person is giving a pruta. So we're talking about a person who doesn't have. The donor doesn't have. He can't give $1. He can't. So he gives a shekel. But the Gemara adds, what you're giving is one thing. V'amafaisei bidvorim. But if you could say a good word to this poor person, if you could say thank you so much for coming, because if you have a little bit of brains, you realize that many of the poor people who are going around collecting feel like nothing, or less than nothing, usually. They're so embarrassed and ashamed, and dinim. Rab Nasan Zal spoke about this in a previous halacha that we had, that an oni has dinim on him, he has judgment on him, a midas hadin on him. And if you could lift that person up by making him feel like a human being, saying, thank you so much for coming, thank you so much for giving me this privilege, V'amafaisei bidvorim gets 11 brachas. And little me can say that I've seen in my limited experience, I've seen this so clearly in the hundreds of people that I deal with in our community and bichlal, people that need help. And what a world of difference it makes when you talk to the person with respect. Every Jew has a part of Hashem in them. An Ani is usually closer to Hashem than a person who's not an Ani. The word Ani is bigematria 2 times Aleph Dalet Nun Yud. The Ani is the shliach of Hashem. How do I give money to Hashem? The answer is when I give it to an Ani Hogun, to a person who's poor and really deserving. The Zohar HaKadosh says that it says the word tefillah in the beginning of a chapter in Tehillim 3 times. There's tefillah LaMoshe, there's tefillah LaDavid, and there's tefillah LaOni. The prayer of Moshe Rabbeinu, the prayer of David HaMelech, and the prayer of a poor person. The Zohar HaKadosh says which one of the 3 is most important? No question, the tefillah LaOni. As the pasuk says, Tefillah la'oni ki yatoif v'lifnei Hashem yishboi sichoi. The prayer of the poor person who wraps himself, he envelops himself. The Zohar HaKadosh says that when a poor person cries out to Hashem, Hashem says to all of his angels, get lost, guys, go find something else to do. Usually the malachim are the ones who present the tefillah to Hashem. When it comes to an Ani, Hashem says, I don't need any intervention. Hashem and the Ani get together under a talis. V'lifnei Hashem yishpoich sichoi. Everybody davens to Hashem. Why does the pasuk say v'lifnei Hashem? The Zohar HaKadosh says to stress that other people, regular people, there are malachim involved, there's all kinds of things involved in the tefillah getting to Hashem. When an Ani, a person who has a real broken heart, when that person cries out to Hashem, it's v'lifnei Hashem. His tefillah is directly at Hashem kaviyachol. Back inside, v'zehu gamkein b'chinas mishloyach monois ish l'reyehu. And this is also the concept behind this mitzvah on Purim of sending gifts, Jews sending gifts to each other, laharois goydel hahispashtus ha'ayin toiv achshav, to show to how far the good eye is extending on this special day on Purim, shekol echad einoi toive ve'yafe b'chaveiroi v'sholchen monoi zeh lozeh v'zeh lozeh, and we're sending gifts to each other. Shekol zeh hu b'chinas toiv ayin. This is the display of this awesome quality called toiv ayin. Shekol echad einoi toiva b'chaveiroi. Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai. Rabban Yochanan, he's called Rabban, the Nasi. He was from the outstanding Talmidim of Hillel Hazoken. He's the one who took over as Nasi after Hillel. He had 5 Talmidim who were the 5 leaders of Klal Yisrael, the foundation of our whole Torah Shebal Peh. And he told them, go out into the world and come back and tell me what's the most important thing in life. And one of them came back, I believe Rebbe Eliezer said, ayin toiva, a good eye. A person who has a good eye lives. A person who has ra'ayin, their whole life, if the person is a millionaire or a billionaire, Their whole life is suffering. It's pain, suffering, anxiety. Because if he has $1 billion, he's willing to commit suicide or to kill himself if he hears somebody else has $2 billion. Or somebody else has something he doesn't have, or the insecurity and the insanity, doesn't trust anybody, everyone just wants my money, all the crazy feelings that people have. Versus a person who has this toiv ayin, a person who's completely satisfied and happy with what they have, and I can be completely happy for the other person for what they have. That's this toiv ayin. And Purim, Rav Nasan Zal has shown us here how Purim is the outstanding day of the year, where the Ra'ayin had such a mapola like it never had before, the downfall of Haman and all of his associates, and the elevation, Klal Yisrael reaching a peak of Toiv Ayin in Tzedakah, and besides Tzedakah, the one day a year, there's a mitzvah for Jews to give to each other. There's a pasuk in Koheles that says, Soine matonos yichya. What do we do with that? There's a pasuk that says a person who doesn't like to take gifts will live. So if I take gifts, you're giving me a gift, you're killing me. Murder, you're committing murder. That's if it's not being done with Toiv Ayin. Toiv Ayin hu yevoirach. Toiv Ayin is life. That's the essence of life. Paragraph Yud Zayin, V'zeh bechinas hasuda shel Purim. And now we understand the significance of the special meal on Purim. Because Ki achshav kishehichniu es hara'ayin, because now that we eliminated the ra'ayin, v'zochu letoiv ayin, al kein achshav ho'achila bigdusha. Once we've gotten rid of the ra'ayin and we have toiv ayin, now our eating is on a level of holiness. Bibchinas, as the pasuk says, which Rabbeinu Zal quotes, vayochal, vayesht, vayitav liboi. He ate and drank, and his heart felt good. If there's a good heart, there's a good eye. Shezeu bechinas achilas Shabbos. The incredible importance of eating on Shabbos. She'oz mitzvah gedoylo lechol sholosh sudos. On Shabbos, it's a tremendous mitzvah to eat 3 meals, keneged shloisha avos, corresponding to the 3 forefathers of the Jews. Ki oz b'Shabbos hu bechinas toivayin kanal. Because Shabbos is again an outstanding day of Toiv Ayin. You remember we explained, according to the Tikkunei Zohar, that the word Shabbos means the eye. The shin of Shabbos represents the 3 colored parts of the eye, and the bas is the bas ayin, the pupil of the eye. Re'u Hashem nosan lechem es Shabbos. See that Hashem has given you the Shabbos. V'oz meirin hashloisha avos. On Shabbos, when we eat the 3 meals, the light of the 3 forefathers of the Jews shines brightly. Shehem bechinas toiv ayin. They were outstanding examples of toiv ayin. Avram Avinu's house was open. Yitzchak and Yaakov followed in his footsteps of being Mekarev people. Ki al yodo machniyin es horayin. Because through these 3 meals, through the Avos HaKadoshim, we eliminate the ra'ayin. V'alkein oz b'Shabbos mitzvah gedoylo lechol. And this is why on Shabbos it's a major mitzvah to eat, k'may shekosov, as it says clearly in the pasuk. Vayomer Moshe Rabbeinu said, ichlu hayoim, eat today, ki Shabbos hayoim, because today is Shabbos. Re'u ki Hashem nosan lechem es hamon. See, Hashem has given you what? See, what see? Rav Nasan says, Re'u daika. Ki oz b'Shabbos me'irim ho'inayim. On Shabbos, the eyes shine brightly. Bebechinas re'u ki Hashem nosan lochem es haShabbos. See, because Hashem has given you the Shabbos. V'aydezeh bi'atzmoi mitzvah lechol. And because there is this toiv ayin, when there's toiv ayin, the achila is bigdusha. Bechinas ichluhu hayoim. Eat it today. Ki oz achila bigdusha. If you recall, we explained previously about when the Jews ate from the Suda of Achashverosh, that there's a type of eating that causes Hashem's face to go into hiding. There's a pasuk, v'histarti ponai mehem v'hoyolechol, that there's an achila which causes hester ponim. When a person's eating from the sitra achra, a person's eating improperly at the wrong time or the wrong food or the wrong amount, Then it's Hester Ponim. When there's Achila Digdusha, there's this Heoras Ponim. Kaviochel, the light of Hashem's face shines brightly. I have an opportunity to share something important. About 47 years ago, when I came to Breslov as a teenager, and I met Rav Rosenfeld Zichron Livrocha, and he was giving shiurim at the time in the Sephardic community, in the Syrian community in Brooklyn, and also in the Ashkenazi community. And there were many improvements that he made where he changed the world at the time. He changed the Jewish world. Because in the Syrian community at that time, in the wealthy Syrian community at the time, they were not serving shalashuris in shuls. And Rav Rosenfeld taught this to his students, and some of his students were fabulous. The Asulan family, others, they heard it. They said, okay, time to make a revolution. And there were battles at the time, major battles, everything. And Hashem won the battle. And Rav Rosenfeld Zichron won the battle. And Rabbeinu Zal followed the Shulchan Aruch and the Zohar Kodesh emphatically. And each one of these meals is exceptionally special. In many Sidurim, they printed a piece from the Zohar Kodesh to be studied at each one of the 3 meals. And if a person reads that, it's so spectacular. It is so special. The reward that a person gets, the deep connection to Hashem, the blessings that a person gets for eating each one of these meals properly, with Zmiros, singing the special songs of Shabbos, and Divrei Torah at the meal, especially the 3rd meal of Shabbos. There must be 50 to 100 pages throughout Likutei Halachos about the 3rd meal of Shabbos, which the Zohar Kodesh says is the holiest time of the week, when the 3 of the greatest tzaddikim, Yosef HaTzadik, Moshe Rabbeinu, and David HaMelech, went up to heaven. They left, their souls left this world at Shabbos, at Mincha, and that's the one time of the week that we say, Vanis Filosi L'Chashem Eis Rotzoim. And Rav Nasan Zal writes, this is why it was the custom of the tzaddikim that the main Torah of the week, they would give over to their students at Sudah Shlishit, at that 3rd meal, because that's the holiest time of the week, when everyone has the best connection possible to Hashem, to the Torah, to each other in Klal Yisrael. And that's why it's a custom among Hasidim for the men to eat together, shalashuris in the shul, sing zmiros together, hear divrei Torah. It's one of the highest events of the entire week by far.
I remember there's also a concept that the person, when he takes something, he's really giving to the other person.
Correct.
That by taking, he gives him covered or...
Exactly. The Gemara...
So how it correlates.
Sure. The Gemara speaks about this. The Gemara says that if a Talmid Chacham goes over to a woman and the woman gives him a $100 bill and she wants to be married to him by the fact that she gave him the $100, not him giving her a ring or him giving her $100, the Gemara says she's mikudeshes. Why? Because when an Adam Choshuv, when an important person is willing to accept a gift from you, that is one of the highest forms of respect. That's a gift to you. The one who's giving is getting much more than the one who's receiving. The fact that an Adam Choshuv, when a person wants to give a gift to the king or to an important person, if things are normal, I don't know what the world is today. Today it's everyone is on the take. But when people were people, when there was a degree of respectability, you couldn't give a gift to a kid. In order to be able to give a gift to somebody important, you had to have tremendous connections and everything to be able to do that kind of thing. So here again, but here the Gemara says that more than the Balabayas is doing for the Oni is doing for the Balabayas. That when a person gives tzedakah, usually the Torah tells us, the one who's giving is receiving much, much more than whatever donation they gave to the poor person, no matter how large the sum, in terms of the bracha that the person gets back.
Thank you.
Sure. This Shabbos is Shabbos Mevorchim of the month of Elul, which is the final month of the year, the 12th month of the year. The Bnei Yisachar writes that the first Mishnah in Ksubas begins with the words Noisnim lebesula shnei moser chodesh. We give a maiden 12 months to prepare herself for marriage. In the olden days, when a couple would get engaged, the girl would have 12 months to sew clothing, to do what she needed to prepare for the marriage. So the Bnei Yisachar writes, we know that each one of the months has a corresponding sign of the zodiac that corresponds to that month. The month of Elul, the sign of the zodiac is Besula, the maiden. So he says, Hashem gives the month of Elul, Besula, the power of 12 months. That if in the previous 11 months we weren't that religious about our shalashuris, about our Friday night meal, about any mitzvah, about our tzedakah, if a Jew takes upon themselves that this month of Elul, I'm going to try to really be better in everything, every iota of Yiddishkeit and menschlichkeit. I'm going to try to be a mensch. I'm going to try to care about every other person, not just myself. And I'm going to try to be a better Jew in every way. Hashem gives this month the power of 12 months. It's a tikkun for the whole year, and it could be a tikkun for our entire lifetime. And the Meforshim point out, we just spoke about Mishloyach Monois Ish L'Reyehu. The wording in the pasuk there is Mishloyach Monois Ish L'Reyehu Umatonois Levyoinim. The first letters of Ish L'Reyehu Umatonois Levyoinim spell the word Elul. And the Sforim tell us that many people know that Elul is a month of tshuva, and tshuva means learning more Torah and more Tehillim. Elul also means 50% of Yiddishkeit, 50% of the Torah is Ish L'Re'ehu Umatonos Levyoinim. It's the Bein Adam L'Chaveiroi. It's the respect, it's Kibud Avoim, it's respect for parents, it's respect for every other Jew, it's trying to do anything I possibly can to help any other Jew, it's being concerned for every other Jew, davening for all of Klal Yisrael to do tshuva, and to have a good life, to be healthy, to have parnasa, everything. That's also a critical aspect of Elul, of the month of Elul and of the tshuva process. Now, in this next paragraph, Rav Nosson Zal goes back to what the Arizal says about Purim, V'alkein, and based on everything we've been learning so far in this halacha, V'alkein zoichen bepurim lehizgalus godol ma'oid mo'oid. This is why the Arizal reveals to us that on Purim, there's an incredible revelation of Hashem's light that in some ways is higher than Shabbos or any other holiday. This is what the Arizal writes, and he explains it and proves it. Ki oz, kemuva b'ksavim, as is brought in the Kisvei Arizal. Ki oz, kishenichresu oisei ra, because on Purim, when the evildoers were eliminated, shehem homon v'zaroi, v'oz nizgalin pnei Hashem lo'oisei toiv, and when the Pnei Hashem, the face of Hashem, which previously was hidden among the Rishoim, and now when we eliminated the Rishoim, and the Pnei Hashem is returned to the Oisei Toiv, to the people that are doing good things, as Rabbeinu Zal explains over there in chapter 55 in Likutei Moharan, V'zeh bechinas oitzem he'ha'ora. This is the incredible spiritual light, Bechinas Heoras Mordechai, the light of Mordechai Hatzadik, Hamizgale Achshav, which is revealed now on Purim, Behizgalus Godol, in an incredible revelation, She'ein Nimtza B'Shum Zman, which it's unavailable, it doesn't exist any other time of the year, not Rosh Hashanah, not Yom Kippur, not Shabbos Mincha. Kimavur Sham Bekisvei Arizal. This is why, again, the Shulchan Aruch says there are some people that dress casually on Purim because you're allowed to go to work, because you're allowed to turn on lights. There are people that don't realize how big a holiday this is. And a person's supposed to wear their Yom Tov clothing. And a person's supposed to know that this is holy day. It's very special. Ki machma shezochu lahachris ma'oid es ha'oisei ra'a. because of the fact that on Purim, there was such an incredible success that was achieved in eliminating the evil. Shehem Haman v'zaroi v'chol mishpachtoi, Haman and his children and all of his family and friends. This brings about an incredible revelation of the Pnei Hashem. This is what the Arizal is talking about when he speaks about this incredible great light of Purim. And this also explains the tremendous joy on Purim. Bechinas la Yehudim oisa oira v'sosain v'simcha. Ki ikar hasimcha hualidei bechinas his galus pnei Hashem. Because true spiritual happiness and joy is when Hashem's face is revealed, when the light of Hashem is revealed. Bechinas, as the pasuk says at the end of chapter 16 in Tehillim, Soiva semochos esponecha. I will be satiated and satisfied with joy and happiness from your face. Umachma shebepurim aidei krisas harishoim nizgala b'yoseh pnei Hashem. And because of the fact that on Purim, by eliminating the rishoim, the pnei Hashem is revealed in an incredible way. Al kein oz hasimcha gedola moed. That's why the celebration, the simcha on Purim, is exceptional. Cars going in the street playing music, people dancing, wild, something. Makara. Are you, what, if that's what you're doing there on Shabbos, we should do 1,000 times more. No, the Arizal explains Shabbos is fabulous. Shabbos is great. But there are certain things that are unique to Purim that put Purim in a class of its own. In Likutei Halachos, there's hundreds of pages on Purim. We just had a taste of it in this halacha. In Mi'etz Hashem, we're going to learn there's so much to learn about how special this Yom Tov is. Now, Rab Nosson Zal goes to a different topic for a short period, and he'll come back to Purim again. Paragraph Yutes, V'alkein mitzvahs sukkah mogein me'amolek kemuva bezoyer HaKodesh. And this is why the mitzvah of sukkah is a tremendous protection and a shield from Amalek, as the Zohar HaKodesh explains. Ki Sukkos heimanane kovoid, because the holiday of Sukkos corresponds to those miracle clouds that traveled with the Jews throughout the 40 years in the desert. Shehem matzilin me'amolek. They protected and shielded the Jews from that ra'ayin, from Amalek. Sheloi bo kiyim al oisan shehoyo he'onan poiltam. Ayin shom. As Rabbeinu Zal says as it says in the Zohar HaKodesh, Amalek was only able to attack those who were rejected by the clouds. These were miracle clouds. This was the divine spirit of Hashem, and the clouds were selective in who was covered by them and who was excluded from this protection. Ki sukkah hi bechinas tseil yad. Because the sukkah is defined as the shade of the hand of Hashem. Bechinas, as it says in the pasuk, ubetzel yodi kisisicha. Hashem says, with the shade of my hand, I covered you. V'alkein besukkas makrivim shivim porim keneged hashivim umois. And this is why the Gemara and the Zohar HaKodesh explain that throughout the holiday of Sukkot, the Jews brought 70 oxen. And as we explained earlier, through this limud zchus, by us justifying the ra'ayin, shehem hashivim umois, which are these 70 nations, umakrivim aleim shivim parim, and we are bringing 70 oxen as karbonos on their behalf. Nimshach tseil yod. Through this, we draw a protection upon ourselves. We draw this shade of the hand of Hashem, which saves us and protects us from any negativity of the ra'ayin of these nations. Bechinas uvetzel yodi kisisicho. Veze bi'atzma bechinas sukkah. And this is what the mitzvah sukkah is all about. Shehi bechinas betzel yodi kisisicha. This is Hashem covering us with the shade of His hand. Shehi nasis mizebia. What generates that shade? The answer is, we are the ones who generate it, she'onu malamdim oschus aleim, by us justifying the existence of these 70 nations, umakrivin korbanos ba'adam, and we are bringing sacrifices on their behalf. Note, these sacrifices are being brought in descending order. The first day 13, the second day 12, 11. There's a reason for that. The Gemara says, because we're trying to get them to descend. We're trying to weaken the power of the Goyim, to lower them, to lessen them. But there still is an acknowledgement of their existence. And again, that they have a place in the Beis HaMikdash. V'zois hasukkah, shehu b'chinas tzel yad. And this sukkah, which is the shade of the hand of Hashem, he matzeles me'amolek. That saves us and protects us from Amalek, shehu klolius horayin, who represents the full spectrum of this Ra'ayin. He's a composite of all the evil of all 70 nations together. Kalidei hatzel yad hanimshach mehalimut schus shemalamdim ala rosha, because through this shade of the hand, which we draw upon ourselves, by recognizing and justifying the existence of the Rasha, Shezeo Bechinas HaSukkah, this is the Sukkah, Hanase Salidei Shivim Purim, which is generated through those 70 oxen, Shemakriv Malem, which we sacrifice for them, Alidei Zeh Nitzoilen Mira'ayin Shel HaRasha. This is what saves us and protects us from being harmed in any way by the Ra'ayin of the Rasha. So we see there's a very delicate balance here in terms of why Hashem has the Rishonim, why Hashem has the Tzaddikim, why sometimes the Rishonim are successful, why sometimes they're getting slammed, why sometimes Chas Rahman, the Tzaddikim are getting slammed. Everything is being done extremely carefully with precision, all for a good purpose, all for the benefit of Klal Yisrael, for the benefit of the Jewish nation. When will we realize this? When the time comes, when Hashem will pull the curtain. Just like by Yosef HaTzadik, it's brought that when the brothers went down to Egypt and they saw him and they didn't recognize him, they couldn't recognize him, and he knew who they were. And he did all kinds of things to them that they didn't understand. They had a billion questions on why this nut job is making us crazy, why he's asking all of these questions and giving us back our money and all what's the whole game? And in the end, Yosef HaTzadik said 2 words, Ani Yosef, and all the questions were answered. The billion questions were answered with just 2 words. The Meforshim say that there's going to come a time when Hashem is going to say 2 words. He's going to say, Ani Hashem. And he's going to say it in such a way that all of our questions, all the questions, all the whys, why, all the questions are going to be eliminated and answered perfectly. We're going to understand everything in Mitzvah Hashem. V'zeh b'chinas kol hakorbanos. And with this we can also understand something extraordinary about all the sacrifices that were brought in the Beis HaMikdash. Shehoyo ha'oshan yotzei, there was smoke that went up from these sacrifices, v'nizoinen mimenu hasitra achra. And the Zohar HaKodesh tells us, we know that smoke is something harmful. It's harmful to the eyes especially, and it's harmful people, Rahman al-Islam, many people who die in a fire die from smoke inhalation, even if the fire doesn't touch them, Rahman al-Islam. So a person would say, Karbanos, couldn't they do something that there shouldn't be any smoke? Smoke is a bad thing. And the Zohar HaKodesh says that smoke was food for the Sitra Achra. V'chein tzrichen litein eze chelek mikol davar. And so too, we are required to leave over a portion. When we eat food, we're required to leave over a little bit for the Sitra Achra. Kimavur bezoyar le'inyan Eoiv. As the Zohar HaKodesh says regarding Eoiv, that one of the reasons why Eoiv went through all the suffering he did was because he didn't do this. He wasn't aware of this issue of giving the Sitra Achra its peace. This is also the reason, one of the reasons why we wash Mayim Achroinim after a meal. The Zohar HaKodesh explains that water goes to the Sitra Achra. That's giving them their peace so that the rest of the meal, everything we ate, they can't touch. they can't do any harm to. Ki tzrichin lelamed alehem schus, because we need to justify them, this sitra achra. Velitein lohem eze chiyus b'tzimtzum godol. We have to give them a little bit of life, very, very limited, very constricted. And through this we are saved and protected from them, from this ra'ayin, that they shouldn't chas v'shalom become strong and overpower us. As the pasuk says, with the shade of my hand I cover you. Interesting, mayim achroinim is the hands. We're washing the hands with these mayim, and this draws upon us this shade of the hand of Hashem. This is a concept that appears, there's a concept, if you don't give him a finger, he'll take the hand. The Torah shows us in certain places where we are required to give something to the Sitra Achra. On Yom Kippur, it was the Soyer HaMishtaleach, that goat that got sent away, that was not brought as a korban in the Beis HaMikdash, it was sent away. Sent away to whom? To the Sitra Achra. It was a portion for the Sitra Achra. Thrown, all the sins of Klal Yisrael were transferred onto it, and it was pushed off a mountain. There are many examples of this, which again, the Torah, the tzaddikim, this is not something that a person decides for themselves what they're going to give to the Sitra Achra. We follow the instruction of the Torah, and the tzaddikim, they teach us exactly how this applies. V'alkein, achar Purim, koirin parshas Porah. Now we'll understand that after the holiday of Purim is finished, the Shabbos after that we read Parshas Porah as the maftir, all about Porah Aduma, the beginning of Parshas Chukas. In that chapter in Likutei Moharan, in the chapter in Likutei Moharan 55, which this whole halacha is based on, Rabbeinu Zal has a whole major paragraph on Porah Aduma, connecting it to everything we've been learning, and connecting it to all the different aspects of Tefillah. Ki hatfila shel Mordechai shehispalel lefnei Hashem Yisborach bo'ez shehizgaber Haman ze bechinas Porah Aduma. The prayer that Mordechai HaTzadik gave forth when he saw how powerful Haman was becoming and what his plan was, his prayer was like a Porah Aduma. It was a grand slam. Every tefillah is compared. There's a pasuk on Shalma Purim Sefasenu, that in place of the sacrifices in the Beis HaMikdash, we offer our prayers. So every prayer is a Porah, but the prayer of Mordechai HaTzadik was a Porah Aduma. Kimevoyer Heite b'Maimon Anal, as Rabbeinu Zal explains very thoroughly in chapter 55. Shetfila kitikunoi hi bechinas Porah Aduma. That a real, proper, wholesome tefillah is like a Porah Aduma. This is why after Purim we read Parshas Porah. Ki bechinas Porah Aduma nasis mi bechinas tfilas Mordechai, because the Porah Aduma is generated from Mordechai's prayer. Shaydei zeh zocho lirois b'Haman arasha masherotza lirois boi, and it's through that spectacular tefillah that Mordechai HaTzadik was able to see Haman receive what Haman had prepared for Mordechai. And they were zeicha afterwards through the son of Achashverosh, Daryovesh, Loshuv le'eretz Yisrael. How does the story of Purim really finish? You don't see it in an obvious way in the Megillah. The real climax, the real goal of the whole story of Purim was to return to Eretz Yisrael, livnois Beis Hamikdash, to rebuild the Beis Hamikdash. Ki Mordechai v'Esther mizera Binyamin. Because remember, we learned in the beginning of this halacha that Mordechai and Esther were descendants of Binyamin, who was the only tribe that was born in Eretz Yisrael and who represents Eretz Yisrael. And Zochu mitchila lahamshichu legalis b'chinas Eretz Yisrael aydei tefilosam agdoila. At first, they were zeicha to draw upon themselves and to reveal the holiness of Eretz Yisrael through their prayer, through their special prayer. Ad shezochu achar kach lo shuv al yidei zel Eretz Yisrael. And then they actualized it. Then Klal Yisrael was zeicha to actually go back to Eretz Yisrael, v'livnois Beis Hamikdash, and to build a Beis Hamikdash, shehein bechinas toiv ayin, which we had learned previously, that Eretz Yisrael is called Toivayin. The entire holiness and blessing of Eretz Yisrael comes from the fact that it says in the Torah, Tomid Einei Hashem Alekecha Bo. The eyes of Hashem are always focused on Eretz Yisrael. Those of us that are privileged to be in Eretz Yisrael on Shabbos should be, and by learning this Torah, we should be zeicha to draw upon ourselves the Toivayin of Hashem, the Toivayin of the Tzadikim, the Toivayin of the Torah, and receive and see the real final elimination of all the enemies of Klal Yisrael with the coming of Moshiach, the building of the third final Beis Hamikdash, 3 corresponding to the 3 Avos Hakdoshim. The 2 Batei Mikdashos were destroyed, the one for Avram and Yitzchak. Yaakov Avinu is called Emes, and the Gemara says Kushta Koi. Emes stands. Emes, each letter, the word Emes has 2 feet. The word Sheker, each letter has 1 base. The word Emes, each letter has 2 feet. It's brought at the third Beis Hamikdash, which corresponds to Yaakov Avinu, which corresponds to Suda Shlishit, the third meal. That third Beis Hamikdash will stand. No one will be able to destroy it. Mitzvah B'mheira b'yameinu. Amen. Any questions, please?
Matanas Levanu Mishloach Manot. You said there was that I missed that piece about that being romez to something.
Yes, Tovayin. The whole concept of Toivayin that we're discussing here. That tzedakah is one of the most clear examples of Toivayin. Because listen to this pasuk that he quoted. Toiv ayin hu yevayrach. A person who has a good eye, he is blessed. Ki nosan milach moiladal. Because he gave from his bread to the poor person. So we see that the mitzvah of tzedakah is one of the clearest mitzvah examples of toivayin. And that's tzedakah. That's 364 days a year. On Purim, we take it to another level. There's giving gifts, not just to the poor, to everyone. Giving and receiving gifts from everyone. During the year, a person wants to give me a gift, I say no. My Rebbe Rav Rosenfeld, I remember it was extremely difficult and almost impossible to give him a gift. Because there's a pasuk in Koheles, Soinei Matanoi Sichya, and many tzaddikim act that way, that they avoid accepting gifts. But Purim, try that on Purim. Impossible. So on Purim, Mishloach Monois Ish L'Reyehu. Giving and receiving. I'd like to end on a little of a happy note. The first year I came to Rav Rosenfeld, Zechron Vacha, I met him in January time, I think, which was Teves, Shvat Ador. I don't remember if it was that first year or maybe a year later. His second son, got engaged right before Purim. And my friends, Reb Shlomo Goldman and I we saw how Rav Rosenfeld lived, how simple he lived, a 1-bedroom apartment for 4 children. 4 children, 2 boys and 2 girls, shared one medium-sized bedroom, and Rav Rosenfeld and my mother-in-law slept in the living room. They had a couch that during the day was a couch, in the evening it served as 2 beds. And we knew that an engagement, you make a kiddush usually in shul. But we could never offer to pay for the kiddush to buy, but shalach manas. So we went to a nearby bakery and we brought cakes, round cakes. They have these beautiful round cakes. He brought 2 cakes, I brought 2 cakes, and I think we encouraged a couple of friends to do the same thing. So we ended up showing up together, a group of guys, with like 8 or 12 round cakes, which meant about 100 portions of cake, which made a beautiful kiddush that Shabbos. And Purim, I think, was on Friday at that time. And my future mother-in-law, I was 17 or 18 at the time, she's looking at us like we're nuts. What are they doing? What do you think? We're going to eat all this cake? We didn't say anything. Sure enough, the cakes were brought to shul for Shabbos, and it was a beautiful celebration. And all of us should be zeicha to celebrate simchas in all of our families, Mr. Shem.
How important is it to eat shalach with a group of people over eating it at home with your family?
Very important question. How important is it to eat shalach in shul with a group of men versus eating at home with the family? Both are very significant. There's a concept of chinuch. It's written about Rab Nasan Zal, the greatest student of Rabbi Nachman, that during the winter nights in Russia, when it gets dark at about 4:30, and Chatzois midnight is at about 11 p.m. And Rab Nasan Zal was makbid to get up for Chatzois every single night usually. And yet the children who would go to learn, they would come home, they weren't home yet by 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock. Rab Nasan Zal would stay up, extra time, sleep less, take away from his sleep that he, in order to eat dinner with the kids. Because he said children have to see how a father eats. How are they going to learn how a Jew's supposed to eat like a mensch? And again, a time for bonding, a time for sharing important things. Then he was makbid. There is such a concept of a family eating together and prime time with a wife and with a husband. Very, very important and significant. Where possible, when possible, Shalashudis is something extraordinary, special in the Olam HaChasidus. Those that are familiar with Chasidus, Kabbalah, know that this is a time for getting together with the Rebbe, that kind of thing. Getting together with the Tzaddik. This is the Raiva the Raivan. This is a time for the Chabura, the Talmidim, getting together with their Rebbe to give over the most important Torah of the week. Where possible, when possible, it's extremely important and special, that kind of thing. But a person has to use good judgment to know when and how and what.
So that was the next question, because sometimes we have, there could be a shul where the Shalashudis is more of a, just the thing they do and not really a meaningful experience, where at home it could be much more meaningful to what we were trying to do.
Very important point. What about a shul where Shalashudis, Chas v'Shalom, Rachmana, people are sitting around talking about nonsense and there aren't really divrei Torah, there aren't really zmiris, Look for a better shul. That's the first piece of advice. Find a good shul. And again, this is part of the decision. This is part of what has to go into the decision. That let's say, for example, a person's traveling and they're not in their shul. Could be there are times that it pays to be mevater and have it with the family and make it a major uplifting experience. But in terms of a norm in the world of Chasidus especially, that this is the highlight of the week. Shabbos is Tchila L'Mikroi Kodesh. Shabbos is number one of all the holidays. All the holidays receive from Shabbos. And the climax of Shabbos is Mincha Suda Shlishit.
We said that doing the Maimon is giving something to the Drachra.
Exactly.
We're just washing our hands. What is it we're giving?
Because that what number one, Maimon Achronim is cleaning off schmutz. It's cleaning off dirt from the hands, that kind of thing. And the way it's done, and we're careful to throw that water out, it's brought that for example, when we wash hands in the morning, when we wake up in the morning, it's brought that during the nighttime, when a person is sleeping, there's a ruach tumah that's on the person. We mentioned the ra'ayin at night. The Zohar Kodesh mentions when a person wakes up in the morning, the ruach tumah leaves completely, except from the fingers, except from the hands. And that's why when we get up in the morning, the first thing, we wash netilas yadayim, we wash the hands. Mayim achronim is also something similar to that. That when we're eating a suda with divrei Torah, singing zmiros, everything, the whole suda is kadosh, anything that's left on the hands physically or spiritually, we're washing that away with the mayim achronim, we're throwing that away, and we have in mind that the Gemara says, mayim achronim choiva. Mayim achronim is an obligation. The term choiva is used about, there's a pasuk in the Torah that the Jews arrived at a place that was called choiva, and Rashi says choiva is avodah zarah. That term is used about avodah zarah. So this concept of mayim achronim choiva, the mayim achronim is going to them. This is the gift. I remember Reb Shimshon Rostropolia said a chiddush about this. I don't remember it at this moment, about the Roshei Tevis of mayim achronim choiva, that it represents something special. But again, the Zohar Kodesh and the Sifrei Kabbalah clarify this.
A question about the Torah, when it comes up through the nostril of Hashem Kivyochel, then that's mevatel dinim.
Yes.
So it seems like ketoires is a smoke.
Ishei reach nichoyach lashem. That all the sacrifices in the Beis Mikdash were a fire offering, a sweet aroma to Hashem. Reach nichoyach. The word nichoyach is nachas ruach. The word nichoyach, the nun ches of nichoyach is the nun ches of the word nachas. The vav ches of the word choyach is the vav ches of the word ruach. Nachas ruach means a satisfaction. The smell, the aroma of the karbanos is something that's super holy, super special, etc. But smoke is usually used to refer to the Sitra Achra. We say it in Shmoin Esrei on Rosh Hashanah. V'chol harisha kula be'oshan tichle. There are two versions to this. This is something, everything has meaning. Rav Rosenfeld, when he taught us the halachas of Rosh Hashanah, some Achzarim have two versions of this. V'chol harisha kula ke'oshan tichle. All evil should be eliminated like smoke, or v'chol harisha kula be'oshan tichle. All evil should be eliminated in smoke. The Tikkunei Zohar says that the version is be'oshan tichle. But you see again, the term oshan is used to refer to Sitra Achra, or the destruction, the elimination of the Sitra Achra. Ayin shin nun, if I remember, the nun is nachosh, the samach is sot, there's a Rosh Oshan is also a Rosh Tevis that refers to the Sitra Achra. Wishing everybody a wonderful Shabbos. This is Shabbos Mavorchim of the month of Elul. This is huge. All of us should make it special. Our preparation for Shabbos should be done with simcha, no kas in the house, no anger, no getting nervous, no getting upset at anyone, chas v'shalom, to take in Shabbos as early as anyone can, the women to light candles as early as you can, and to be full of simcha, to exude simcha to our entire families on Shabbos. And we should be zecher that this should be a month of success for Klal Yisrael like we never saw before. Mitzvah Shem. All the best. All the best. In the spirit of Purim.
Good Shabbos. I couldn't put off that chorus. That was beautiful.
Beautiful. All the best. All the best to all of us.